This is the Black TV Show podcast hosted by Miriam Temeskin. Hello, welcome to the Black TV Shows podcast. This is episode 53. Today we're talking all about makeup and how we should not want to look older, which is so true. This is the Cosby Show season 3, episode 5, Mother May I, which is actually based on a game, I believe. And so this episode aired October 23rd, 1986. I noticed right away, I don't really say directors and writers that pop up on the screen that actually did the writing and directing for the show, because I noticed for the directing it's mostly Jay. I can't remember his last name, but he is a white man, so I really just didn't really want to highlight him. But I noticed for today's episode it says that it was written by Susan Fallis, if I'm saying her, I think I might be saying the last name wrong, but now, and she's now known as Susan Fallis Hill, who actually becomes one of the head writers and producers of A Different World. So she makes a huge impact on the show A Different World, which we will get into this September, which I can't wait for you guys to listen. Although, as I said, season 1 will definitely not be good episodes, but you guys listen to me basically trash season 1. It'll be a fun time, you know. So a fun fact there, she wrote this episode in particular. So the synopsis for this episode is: Vanessa's friends urge her to wear makeup even after Claire specifically forbid it until she turns 15. So we start off with Rudy basically using Vanessa's makeup on Cliff's face. You know, she wanted to make Cliff look pretty, basically. And so then Claire comes home from work and she's hiding her belly, you know, she is pregnant, right, with a briefcase. And right away Rudy goes to her saying, I didn't do it. And Claire was like, really, be honest, did you do this? And she's like, yeah, and so she decided to say, I wanted to see if Cliff looks like a woman. So basically like a drag queen in a way, kind of. Not really. So Claire decides to wake him up. And also Claire mentions that, you know, he doesn't actually look that bad, you know, right? He has, if you see his face, he has blush that does look bad on him. The blush is just all over the place. He has lipstick that is not lined properly, and he has some eyeshadow that is kind of not seen on the screen, but he does have it. So she really used all of Vanessa's makeup, okay? And so Cliff starts laughing at him, and she says to him, oh, you look beautiful. And he's like, thank you, you look beautiful too. And she was like, no, you look way beautiful. Go look in the mirror and look. So he looks in the mirror, and he's not happy about it, you know? When he looks at the mirror, first of all... Was there a mirror this whole time that we were watching this show? Because I don't recall there's going to be a mirror for the rest of the series. I know there'll be things on the door time to time on the show. But why is there a mirror randomly there, okay? So for the two places so the place I currently live in and the place I used to live in, they both had mirrors in the living room. But the thing is, it was right by the door. Which makes sense because right when you're about to leave, you want to check how you're looking so you look good for the world, basically. But this mirror is just randomly on the far end of way far from the front door. So I'm like, why is there just a random mirror? So clearly they purposely did this for the episode, which doesn't make sense because in real life we don't just move things conveniently. I forgot this is a sitcom, but you know what I mean? You know, this is a true fact, right? So that just was so weird for me to see the mirror just randomly there when he was looking. And so Cliff isn't happy with the makeup, and he asks Rudy why she chose his face to express herself. And she says, sorry, you know, she got the makeup from Vanessa. It was in her book bag. And Claire goes and talks to Vanessa because, there is a rule, and we will find out what that rule is. And so we go to Vanessa's room, and Claire shows the makeup bag, and Vanessa's like, that's not right. Like, Rudy is, like, went through my book bag. It's an invasion of privacy, basically. And so basically Claire tells Vanessa that the rule in this house is that there's no makeup until you're 15. I think I wore makeup before I was 15. Okay, wait, 13. 13 would be grade 8. Yeah, I wore makeup in grade 8 because I remember I had my grade 8 grad. I don't know for you guys Americans because I feel like in America there's like grade 6 grad or something like that, but I can't recall. I don't know the exact thing. But here there's a grade 8 grad. And I remember there is a photo of me with makeup on. And I feel like when I was 12 and 13, which is so weird. It's so relatable to this show. When I was 12 and 13, like that was when I really was invested in makeup with like foundation and everything. Nowadays, I really don't wear makeup at all. I'm like very natural. The most I'll do is having a lipstick on when I'm going to a party. That's about it. But it is weird to think about it because I feel like when I was 12 and 13, I remember going to a store and looking for these foundations. So it's exactly the same age as Vanessa. Isn't that weird? So yeah, I guess that is the trend. I guess that's when people really care about makeup. But when I look at videos and photos of me back when I was in grade 8, I look like a baby, by the way. Because, like, if we look at Vanessa right now, Vanessa doesn't look like she's 13. She looks much older. But, like, when I was, 13, I looked like a little kid. Like, I look so young. I've always been short, so I guess that's probably the reason why. But it's just, like, weird that like my life was basically the same as Vanessa in a way, you know what I mean? At least I was not disowned for wearing makeup like how she is, how there's a whole rule. There was no rule for me, but in my case I don't think I got makeup to look older. That wasn't, I think, the purpose of it. I think I was just getting makeup just so I could follow the trend of everyone else, and I don't think the trend of everyone else was to look older. So I don't know why in this case when we're going to find out why Vanessa's wearing makeup is because her crew of friends want to look older. And so, but we do notice how much makeup Claire is wearing on her face currently in this scene. You can see she has blush, eyeshadow, lipstick, like, to prove a point to someone to say not to wear makeup until a certain age, shouldn't you just not have the makeup on your face to begin with? You know what I mean? But I guess because Claire is over 15, she's allowed to wear as much makeup as she wants, And so Vanessa says Claire has never told her that rule. And so Claire was like, well, I'm telling you the rule now. The only reason why you want to wear makeup is because you want to look older. And so Vanessa points out that she's 13 years old. I swear, if I look at photos of me at 13, I look like a baby, okay? So, like, when Vanessa says she practically thinks that she's a woman, no, you're not. Yes, okay, so we're going to backtrack. First, I just said no, but I realized I should backtrack a little bit because if we fast forward, for people that haven't seen the actual series, which is sad if you haven't, if we go to season 8, I believe I think it's season 8, where Rudy just got her period for the first time, and I believe she must have been 12 during that season. I don't know the actual age, but basically Claire tells Rudy, this is a sign of you becoming a woman. So basically, Vanessa is proving Claire's point for the future, I guess, in a way. You know what I mean? But no, Claire says, no, you're not a woman. You're an old child. And so Vanessa's like, well, at least am I a beginning adult? And Claire was like, okay, you're a beginning adult. But she says that this was the rule for Sandra and Denise, And will be the rule for Vanessa. And Vanessa points out that when Denise and Sandra was at 13, the earthy look was in. Sloppy clothes, no makeup. I don't know about now. Now I feel like it's natural. Well, I guess in my crew of friends, it's mostly natural. I think a lot of my friends just care about now more about skincare than makeup. If their skincare routine is on point, they don't care about makeup. So the earthy look clearly is in for us, So Claire says that she doesn't care. She doesn't want to see Vanessa in makeup. So it's later on, and Claire's making dinner, and you notice that like the stove is higher just to hide Felicia's belly. And so Cliff comes and he wants to know what happened with Vanessa. And Claire admits when she was like Vanessa at 13, she drove her mother crazy. She doesn't know why it's always like this. When we're 13, we want to be 16. When we're 16, we want to be 18. When we're 18, we can't wait until we are 21. And I love when Felicia says this, the way she talks. I didn't really pay attention for this watch. But previous times when I watched this episode, I really loved how she says that. It's very weird for me to say that, but the way she said it, I feel like if there was a different way of saying it, it would have been bad. But the way she said it was like, whoa, it's very mesmerized. Clearly, I don't have enough words to explain what I'm talking about. But and I think that is true. We always want to be older, and I realize now that's a bad idea. I was literally having a conversation with one of my best friends. We went for a walk outside, and so we're talking about the times when we were like kids, like from the age, 9 to like 15 or 16. And how those were really the good old days. Like the fact that we always got to hang out with each other every weekend. And when it was summer, it was basically every day, all these like beach days and all this stuff. And I do remember at that time, sometimes you're like, oh, look at the older people. You kind of wish you could be with them. Because like with me, especially, I was always looked at as that little, like the little sister, a little kid, like to mentor basically. And now we're older and we regret the fact that we wanted to be older. We should have really enjoyed those good old times together as friends. So it is true what Claire was talking about. And so Cliff says he never had this problem of trying to look older. All he wanted to do was enjoy the age he was in. And Claire points out when he was 16 years old, he dressed up in his father's suit at Claire's doorstep and had a sad little mustache penciled in. Cliff says that had nothing to do with looking older. He wanted to look like Duke Ellington. Okay. So Cliff says he still has that suit upstairs, and Claire tells him he should wear it, but not the suit. So basically, you know what it means. Okay, I don't even need to say it. But it's crazy how they keep having this topic within a family show. So Rudy comes down, and she wants a lemon to eat it, which is very weird to just have it straight. And so Cliff gives the lemon and she enjoys it, and Cliff says, yeah, that's your child, to Claire. And so Theo comes in and he's looking for fire extinguishers. I think I said, said it wrong, but I think you get the point. And so because he needs to find them for his health class, they're studying about fire prevention. He has to draw a plan in the house, show where all is kept of the fire extinguishers and the smoke alarms. He found all the smoke alarms, but none of the fire extinguishers. And Cliff has bought them before, but he just doesn't know where they are. And there's one in each car apparently. And so Theo points out that in a fire, you would not have time to stop and think, which is so true. Like, you're just running out of the house. I think the most important thing for me if I was ever in a fire, which God forbid that actually happens. I hope to God that never happens. I think the most important thing for me to take out of the house would be my hard drives and photo albums and videotapes, because that is priceless. That will never, no one can pay me enough money for that, basically, because that's memories that I always want to look back at. Theo says that they should know exactly where the fire extinguishers are at all times, and Cliff says he moves them around so the fire doesn't know where they are. What? Okay, that statement does not make any sense, but whatever, let's move on. And so Theo points out this is serious. As an authority figure of the house, you should make every effort to understand fire safety. That is true. And even Clair was like, yeah, that is true. And we should know more about fire safety. And so Theo starts asking a few questions that he has in his booklet from health class. If a grease fire breaks out, you should throw water on it immediately. For me, I actually thought it was true when I first saw this as a kid. And so Cliff says true, but it's false, so wrong. Water will spread a grease fire. And Claire says she knew that, and you're supposed to use baking soda, apparently. But Theo adds on that you could also use a chemical-based fire extinguisher. This episode, we really learned a lot about fire safety, by the way. So that's I should have said that from the start. So the next question is, on an electric fire, you should always use a fire extinguisher. The answer is false, but of course, Cliff says true. And so Theo was like, wrong. And so he basically says some fire extinguishers are water-based. And Claire was like, I know that too. And basically Cliff was like, you're saying you knew this after after the answer was read, basically. And so Cliff says you can know everything after the answer has been given, basically. And so Cliff takes the pamphlet and asks a question. What are the 3 most important things you should do to maintain your smoke alarm, I guess basically free from dust particles or whatever? And so Theo says, 1, test it. 2, charge the batteries at least every year. And 3, vacuum the alarm every 3 months to make sure it's free from dust particles. Which is true. But Cliff says, wrong. And Claire was like, no, that was right to her. It's right. And like Cliff was like, why are you making me feel bad, basically? And so Theo pitches to them that they should have a fire drill in the house. And Claire was like, oh yeah, that would be a good idea. And Cliff says, as long as it's after dinner. And Theo was like, no, it can't be planned. It has to be surprise, because in a real fire, you're going to be caught off guard, right? And so Cliff brings up a Roman saying that says, by age, not by knowledge, do you acquire wisdom. And all of a sudden, Claire was like, wrong. The actual saying is, not by age, but by knowledge is wisdom acquired. So when I've seen this episode, because I've seen this episode many times, because this is actually one of my favorites. I love this episode. I really wanted to talk about this episode with Tempest herself, but unfortunately I was not able to do that. So basically, the difference between what Cliff says and what Claire says is basically the rearranging of the words. They're basically the same words, although the acquire and acquired is different, like the tense of the word acquired. So I'll say it again. So Cliff says, by age, not by knowledge, do you acquire wisdom. And so Claire says, not by age, but by knowledge is wisdom acquired. So the not by age, it's moved around basically. And so Theo leaves, and Cliff was like, why do you make me look like a fool, basically, in front of my own children, And so we end that scene, and it's the next day, and we're at school, and Vanessa tells Rebecca, first of all, before we meet Rebecca, where is Janet Miser? Did we not notice that she just disappeared from the school? She will come back for another episode, but it's who the heck are these 2 girls? Because we will never see these girls ever again. And I feel like when you're... Okay, I guess my life was a bit different. But I feel like with majority of people, they have the same friends. For me, I think I did have different friends every year because based on who was in my classroom. But I still had like the same friends no matter what when I'm outside of the classroom. So it's just very weird that we don't have Janet Miser and we have these two random girls that we will never see again. And so we meet Rebecca, so Vanessa tells Rebecca, she can't wear makeup at all. This is the end. It's the new beginning. It's the earthy look. And Rebecca says Vanessa can't have her face naked. What? Face naked? That's how we were born with. So like I don't understand. Like it just whatever. Let's move on. But by the way, this girl kind of looks like Michelle Thomas, and for those that don't know who I'm talking about, she will actually be in this series. She will play Theo's girlfriend, and I believe she actually had a relationship with Malcolm Jamal. Unfortunately, she did pass away, I think, at the age of 30. But we'll talk about her when her character comes on the show. And so Vanessa points out Claire was very serious, like she was like very stance on it. And so Rebecca points out Claire won't see you at school basically, and when you're wearing makeup at school, she won't see you. And basically what she said was she doesn't want to see you wearing makeup, and when you're at school, she won't see you, basically. And Vanessa says that's not what she meant. And Rebecca was like, but that's what she said. And so Rebecca convinced her for wearing the makeup because it is dehydrated raspberries and has real Italian mud or something like that, made by an Italian princess or something. I don't know. And so some stupid excuse, basically. And so Vanessa tries it on, and the other girl, which is never named, but apparently her character name is Michelle, she comes in and she starts talking about a professor, basically. And then she looks at Vanessa and she's like, oh, so the Michelle, she, first of all, has so much makeup on her face. Like, she just has, I'm just, like, lipstick, what is it? The blush, the eyeshadow, like, and then like the earrings and like her whole outfit basically. What is going on? She just looks. Well, I guess she looks like the 80s, this is the 80s, but it's very weird. So Michelle says, "Oh, that looks good. That's a nice lipstick on you. I have blue shadow that can go with it." And so Rebecca says the makeup will make us look like we're 15, and Michelle was like, it would make us look like 16, and then Vanessa says 16 and a half, and they all cheered together basically. And this is the end of Act 1. We go into Act 2. So Theo and Cliff are cleaning and testing the smoke alarms because, we're learning all about fire safety in health class, and Theo is getting Cliff to inspect the smoke alarm, but there are some specks and there is some 3 dust particles. And how do you know there's just like 3 dust particles? Are they like big? Because apparently to them it's specks. And like Cliff is like, you gotta clean that because like if I leave 3 little specks in a patient, we wouldn't be living here. I'd be unemployed. And so Theo was like, are you being like this because of how I treated you earlier with Mom? And he's like, yeah, you're right. That is the reason why I'm treating you like this. And so Vanessa comes into the kitchen from school, and Theo noticed that there's some blue stuff around her eye. Like he calls it junk. At first, when I first heard this when I was watching this episode, like on my own random time, I thought he said chalk, but after looking at the subtitles, it's actually junk, he said. And she finds out, and first of all, she checks what's on her eye using a knife. How do you see how much of your face through a knife? I guess you could if it's a very clear knife. And she finds out that she has some eyeshadow on her eyes, and she thought she got it all off. And Theo says, Vanessa, you're not supposed to wear makeup. And she's like, I thought I got it all off. So this makeup that she's wearing is actually waterproof, which means that you cannot just go to the sink or like, in this case, there was a sink. She couldn't wash her face, or I guess she couldn't wash her makeup off because it's waterproof. And that's the one thing I don't like about waterproof. It's like you can't get it off unless you have special cream, and I guess in this case it's cold cream, but it's just like it's the worst. But then at the same time, I remember when I was younger, waterproof was the thing, because like if you're at the beach and you're wearing mascara and you're swimming and all of a sudden it like drags on if it's not waterproof, so then it's great when it could just stay. But at the same time, it's just like it doesn't come off unless you have special cream for it, and it's just like, no, I don't want to deal with that. And so she needs cold cream, but we find out that Claire is actually upstairs, so Theo says don't go up there, right? And Theo suggests I can vacuum it off. Theo. What? What? Vacuum it off? She can't even take it off with the water. How did you vacuum it off? You have to use a special cream. Oh, he's just a teenager, clearly. And so Vanessa, begs Theo to go get the cold cream from upstairs, and he was like, if you could give me $5, and she's like, this is no time for like playing games, and he's like, okay, fine, I'll go get it. So he goes up, and Vanessa decides to run into the living room, and guess who's in the living room now? And it is Claire Huxtable, and she is folding clothes, which I think is a way to hide Felicia's belly. I swear, she's just doing laundry like constantly in this season. Have you not noticed that since episode 2? And so Claire was like, why is Vanessa just randomly going in and out of the living room? So she goes and checks to see what's Vanessa up to. And so Vanessa decides to cover her face with sunglasses, and Claire realizes there's something going on. And she sees Vanessa's face, and there is makeup. And Claire is happy. She's like, it's amazing when someone takes off their sunglasses and you can see around their eyes. And, Vanessa starts making a bunch of excuses, and Claire is not buying it. And Claire tells Vanessa to go upstairs, and she starts counting, like, from 100, 99, all this, and she goes downwards, of course. And Cliff comes in, and he's like, oh, you're counting. And he was like, who? And Claire was like, Vanessa. And what did she do? And basically, Claire gives Cliff the rundown of what happened. And Cliff points out that, there's a good news, because apparently, Claire has gone through this with Sandra and Denise. And so Cliff was like, good news, you only have one more with Rudy. And she was like, when Rudy turns 13, like, we should run away from home, because I'll be too old to deal with this, basically. And Cliff suggests that let's bring Rudy down now and put makeup on her face and start yelling at her. That could actually work. Like, if you're told to do something by your parents, I feel like you're more likely not to do it later on. So that actually could be a good idea. I know it didn't make sense when he says it, but I was like, I've seen this episode multiple times, and I'm like, that's actually not a bad idea, honestly. But that is kind of like child abuse right there, by yelling at the child. That you don't want to do, or verbal abuse. And so we go to Vanessa's room, and Theo comes in to see what is happening, what's the update. And she said nothing. She just wanted to cool down, and she'll come up later. And Theo says that means Claire is mad and she needs time to cool off. And so Claire only did this once to Theo. It was a time where he put a watch in a dishwasher, and he wanted to see if it was waterproof, like the commercials. And he did this at 13. What? Yet again, another stupid thing that's happening in this episode. First, he's wanting to vacuum off eyeshadow. Now at 13, he tried to see if a watch was waterproof in a dishwasher. What is next? Okay. So Vanessa says that's that's kind of stupid of what Theo did. But Theo points out that, Claire told her not to wear makeup, and she did it anyways. Claire never told Theo not to put a watch in a dishwasher. He got that point. Yes, that is so true. Okay. And so we hear a knock, and we thought it was Claire and Cliff, but it was actually Rudy. And Rudy's like, "What's going on?" And she gets the rundown basically, and Rudy says, "You're not supposed to wear makeup." There's another episode coming up soon, or I don't know if it's in this season or later on, but I remember there's an episode where one of Vanessa's friends is smoking, and same thing in the episode. Rudy says, "You're not supposed to be smoking." Like, Rudy's like the poster child of not to do something, basically. You know what I mean? So Rudy was like, "When are we having the fire drill?" And when Vanessa hears that, she's like, "Yeah, let's do it," because then that way she doesn't need to deal with Cliff and Claire. And Theo says, "A fire drill would only postpone your date with doom." That is such a good statement. It's a great, sassy statement. Like, a fire drill would only postpone your date with doom. Like, that is, whoever wrote this, or I guess it would be Susan, but the person that wrote this episode, that is a good statement, man. Like, honestly, this episode I love. I always go watch this episode all the time. This is probably one of my top favorite episodes of season 3. If I have not yet said that, but I always go to this. I feel like because as a girl, who I guess I used to like makeup, because I don't really like it as much now, but it was so relatable, because when I first watched this, I was watching this as a young child, and then maybe teenager, because I told you guys I have the DVD to all these seasons except for, unfortunately, season 1 and season 6. But I've seen this episode multiple times, and it was just a relatable character to me in terms of, I want to, wear makeup and all that stuff. I realize now that it's pointless to wear makeup. We gotta have the earthy look in, just like what Vanessa said earlier in the episode. So that statement was really amazing for this episode. And so Cliff and Claire come into the room, and they want to talk to Vanessa alone. So Theo and Rudy have to leave, and so Vanessa says, "I did it. I'm sorry, and I should be punished." And Cliff responds back by saying, "We know it. We accept, and you will be." And so Vanessa says it wasn't her fault. Her friends kind of forced her to put makeup. It was practically temporary insanity. I don't even know what that means. Because is that supposed to be coming from? Is that a movie line? I don't know. As I said, when I watched this episode, I'm like, what does that mean? Temporary insanity. But anyways, Claire says, we have rules in this house, and we expect the kids to follow it, and we make these rules because we think they're good for you. It's not to ruin your life, basically. And she says a rule is a rule, and she told her not to do something, and she did it anyway. And Cliff was about to start talking because Claire gives him a moment. But then Vanessa and Claire, they just start talking over him. And he's like, "Okay, that's all I got to say." And they give each other a hug, Claire and Vanessa. And we find out that Vanessa is going to be grounded for a week. It's nighttime, right before going to bed. And there was a little conversation with Claire and Cliff about groundation, basically. But Cliff goes into the washroom, and right at that moment, Theo says, "Fire drill!" And it's time for everyone to leave the house for the fire drill. Oh my god, I haven't had a fire drill since... Did I have fire drills in high school? I know we had so many fire drills in elementary school. It was ridiculous. But I don't recall any fire drills during high school, unless my memory is just horrible from high school. But wow, I haven't had a fire drill in like forever. It's crazy. Those were good times because it's like, you get to miss parts of your class, which basically proves the point of what Theo says, to postpone your date with doom, in terms of if it could be a test, an exam, whatever. But man, it's been a long time for that. And so everyone goes out, and then Theo goes to Cliff's bathroom, and Cliff was like, what? I'm in the bathroom. And Theo was like, you need to go out. We have to go outside. It's the fire drill. And Cliff asks, is there a house on fire? If it is, tell me. And of course it's not. And Cliff points out, like, how come when your mother's in here, no one bothers her? Every time I'm in this place, there's a parade going on, basically. And Theo says, okay, we'll do this without you, clearly, because you're not really participating with this. And so Theo goes to the living room, and everyone's still in the living room. And Theo's like, if this was a real fire, you would be already outside, or you'd been dead from the fire, basically. And they were saying, it's cold outside, we have to wear jackets. So they go all outside, and they stand for, it felt like only like 2 seconds, and all of a sudden Vanessa was like, can we go inside, like it's cold out? And by the way, I was like, is this like December or January or February? January and February, it tends to be the coldest. I don't know what the climate was like in the 80s, because with climate change things have changed, but nowadays it's usually January and February that's like the coldest, but it's October. So I was like, how cold is it? But I understand, maybe because they were in their pajamas and they were just wearing like a jacket and that's it. Maybe that's why they were like super cold. But yeah, so this episode aired in October, so it is just kind of weird. Theo tries to open the door, but it won't open, and Claire was like, where's your key? And he's like, I didn't bring my key. And first of all, isn't this door usually open I was going to say half the time. Actually, majority of the time. Because, like, I swear, like, I've seen people just walk in this house that don't even live in this house. And the one time they just go out to do a fire drill, they're locked out of their house. I understand if it's nighttime, because at nighttime you kind of want to lock the door because you don't want random strangers coming to your house, even though all the people that are coming are their friends. But it's so weird that this random this random time they all of a sudden their door is locked. And so Claire was like, okay, let's first they ring the doorbell and make noise, but Claire was like, we don't want to wake up the whole neighborhood, so let's go to the basement, to the back door, to see if any of the doors are open. So they all leave the front door, and Cliff is done using the washroom, and he is now going to go outside to complete the fire drill, and he opens the door and closes it right behind him, and it locks behind him, and they are all locked out, and we end the episode right there. Really great episode, honestly, and I feel like I've been talking about this this is a long episode, so I apologize, but this is an episode I really like, and I told you I relate to it a lot, and I feel like a lot of females that watch the show starting when it aired in the 80s to now probably relate to this episode a lot more. I know as boys or men, this is not really a topic that you're interested as much, but it is a great episode. So I just want to mention that Lisa Bonet did not appear in this episode because, of course, she's at Hillman. Fun fact that the Major League Baseball agreed to delay Game 5 of the 1986 World Series a half hour so NBC could air this episode. What? Not many shows can do that. I'm used to like sports like dominating television than television or like TV shows dominating a game. Like the fact that it was postponed or delayed by a half hour, it's crazy because I watch a reality show called Big Brother and Survivor sometimes too, but Survivor it's on a weekday, so it's a bit different. But if there's a sports and they are going overtime, it actually delays the show, like Big Brother. Like I wouldn't be able to watch it at the time slot that is allotted to that show. And so, I realize that, sports it's a more dominated thing on television than a TV series or a reality show. So the fact that they pushed it by a half an hour for this episode, which is a great episode, first of all, is amazing. Clearly the ratings for this episode would have been like through the roof because everyone was waiting for Game 5. If you think about it, and then also that the title is based on the childhood game based on asking permission to move. Mother May I, blah, blah, blah. I haven't played that game since I was a kid, so I don't know the exact rule of the game, Mother May I. But it is a very common game. I didn't realize, I didn't relate it to this episode until I was looking up about this episode. I was like, oh, it is Mother May I is a game. I totally forgot. And so we have 2 guest stars who actually, this is their only credit ever. They didn't do any acting afterwards. So we had Nicole Fort, who plays Rebecca, and Michelle Fanch. Oh, I can't say her last name, so we're just gonna call her Michelle. And she plays Michelle, so she's playing. So this, she must have been, a last minute add-on if that was the case, because they're using the same name as her name. So yeah, and they never did any acting afterwards. So they are people from the hood, basically. And so the lesson is, a rule is a rule, don't break it. And it's not only in the household, but also legally. Don't break laws, or else you're going to jail, or if you're at home, you're going to get grounded. And so what's the question I have for you guys is, what family rules did you break as a child? I'm trying to think. I feel like I broke a lot of rules, but I don't actually remember. But I want to hear from you guys. If you have memorable stories, it would be amazing to hear, using the hashtag Mother May I at Black TV Shows Pod at Twitter and Instagram. So the next episode is episode 54, The Cosby Show Season 3, episode 6, The March. And I will see you all on the next one.